Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. So Nigel Farage has attempted another tactic to neuter what he now sees as inevitable questions around the Russian bribery scandal engulfing Reform UK. He's said that NATO should shoot down Russian planes which encroach into its airspace, something that even the NATO Secretary General isn't calling for, by the way. It's a blatant attempt to head off questions about Russian bribery, which are likely to dog him all the way to the next election. But here's why it shouldn't work. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So let's go over the timeline, shall we? Nathan Gill admits to accepting Russian bribes to give pro-Russian statements in the media and the European Parliament, where he was a close colleague of Nigel Farage. Farage initially denied even knowing the man, which seemed unlikely because there are like 100 photos of the two together online. Nathan Gill left UKIP at the same time Nigel Farage did. He joined the Brexit Party as an MEP when Farage set it up, and then Reform UK when Farage rebranded. Gill was seen with Farage together at lots of publicity events, so the two were clearly professionally close, even if not socially. So after the idea of claiming not to know fell on its arse, Nigel Farage then admitted he did know Gill after all. Oh yeah, that man, yeah, okay, yeah, I have known him for years, yeah. But here's the thing, that still isn't answering some basic questions, because we've not got the questions about Nathan Gill. We know he's admitted taking the bribes. Like I keep saying, the Russians will absolutely have approached others. It is inconceivable that they would not have approached Farage himself. The Russian authorities had a close working relationship with Nigel Farage via their work together on Russia Today, Kremlin television. Of course he personally will have been approached. They worked with him professionally. At some point, some journalist is going to have the opportunity to ask him, and will ask him. Farage knows that an issue like this doesn't go away, and if he's serious about making a bid for government, he's going to have to face a lot of interviews over the next few years. This question is hanging over him like the sword of Damocles. It's an indictment of our terrible journalism that hasn't already been loudly and repeatedly asked. But he cannot hope it will never be asked, especially as Labour have already started making noises about it. And they are highly motivated to carry on making noises about it because Farage is their rival, right? Labour aren't going to turn something like this down. And then there's something else. The journalists covering the Nathan Gill case will at some point presumably want to explore the near certainty that others took those bribes and ask who they were. There have been reporting restrictions in place. I think they must have been lifted now because he's admitted it, but maybe not. But certainly those journalists will have been working on quite a few things while the case was going on and they weren't allowed to report on it. Some of that's going to start filtering through at some point. You know, Farage knows these questions are going to be sprung on him at some point. Labour will certainly ask them. They've already started. But so too will some journalists who don't have editors who are mates of Reform UK. So today, or yesterday rather, depending on when this video comes out, yesterday probably, Friday, he tried to head them off by saying he thinks Russian planes should be shot down if they enter NATO airspace and that we should use Russian assets to help Ukraine, something the current government's already doing and in favour of doing more. Now, why would Farage be coming out with this now when it wasn't that long ago he was saying we shouldn't even be helping Ukraine defend itself, much less actually shooting directly at the Russian Air Force? Because he's thinking long term. He's even talking about being willing to put British troops on the ground to face off against Russia. He knows that something like this is unlikely to bat away the questions of Russian bribes now, if those questions were asked now. After all, what has a sudden policy change today or yesterday got to do with possible behaviour years ago? No, this is insurance for later. It is so that come 2029 and the political temperature rises in the crucible of a general election, when Nigel Farage is asked about his close association with a man who admitted turning traitor to his country, he will say, oh, yeah, I've advocated a very tough line on Russia. I have done for years, you know. But this shouldn't work. If he tries it, he should be challenged on the timeline. The Russian bribery took place over a period of time between the Brexit referendum and leaving the EU, at a time when he was taking money from the Russian state for broadcast work on Russia Today. His sudden about-face on Russia-Ukraine came in 2025, years later, and only then when he was feeling the pressure from questions about Russian bribes. This U-turn is because he's desperately trying to defend himself against his conduct. But it shouldn't work for any journalist serious about the questions. And we've already seen Nigel Farage fall to pieces when he gets put under proper scrutiny. He hasn't been used to it. He may find that it happens a lot more if he continues to be presented as a credible prospect for heading up our government. His move this week is designed to give him a distraction in a few years' time. I wonder what he's working on for questions about who paid for his house in Clacton. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.